point, please take a seat, and thank you for working your way into the room. I'm going to get going because we have a couple of agendas here today. My name is Karen Hochberg, and I am the current president of the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club. Thank you very much. This is my last meeting as president because there's two parts of today, and we're starting at 1:45 because we're going to start this forum at 2. Welcome to the Barbara Daly Danko in the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club Barbara Daly Danko Forum. Barbara Daly Danko was, as you know, many of you may know her, because a lot of you have been with us for many years, was a community organizer, longtime ward chair of the 14th Ward, was part of the Independent Democratic Club. And we lost her. She was the first elected representative to the Allegheny County Council from our district, and we lost her too soon. So we try to honor her memory with these forums, which are very much a part of both the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club and the 14th Ward Democratic Committee. We are two different entities. A lot of us work to the same purpose, but we are two different entities, and we are glad you're here today. So I thank you all for coming, and I want to take a minute while people are walking into the room. I want you to look to the left, and I want you to look to the right, because these are the people who are in the fight with us, and we are in a fight. We are in a serious fight in America at the moment. And as Thomas Paine said when he was writing Common Sense, and we hear a lot about common sense, and often that's what people say attract us to candidates, common sense and common speaking. Well, we must meet the times. The times found those people. The times have found us. And so I encourage you to stay involved in this group. But our group has mainly worked on primaries. Last year, we celebrated our 60th anniversary, and we send out every primary to the largest voting district in the state of Pennsylvania a yellow pamphlet that lists the candidates that you all select as those that we feel will do the best work for us, whether it be a candidate for mayor, a candidate for judicial candidates. It's been essential for us to pick good judges. And what has been more important than good judges in America these days? So the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club and its members have selected these candidates for years. And we're proud to have done it, and we're proud and thankful that you're here. I would like to encourage you, when you leave here today, to understand that primaries are important. We should never be fearful of primaries because primaries build a democratic muscle. Primaries build people out there electing new candidates, building a bench. It also gets in the primaries people registering new voters. If you do nothing when you leave here today, because so much is going on in the world and it seems so overwhelming, register a neighbor. Make sure your family members are voting. And the other thing that you must do every day is call Senator Fetterman, you must call McCormick, you must call Schumer, and you must tell them to serve the interests of our citizens. And it's a very quick call on a smartphone. Put them on auto dial. And when you leave here today, beyond our work in the primaries, look for indivisible groups. Look for people who are organizing in the neighborhood, and you know them here in the community. Join their efforts. It's going to make a difference. People in America have always made a difference, so I implore you to do that. That's the end of my soapbox as I leave becoming president. So what I'm going to announce a couple of things. Our election is today, and I would like to thank outgoing board members Christine Milcarrick, who's rotating off the board, and Marvin Leibowitz, who we lost. Marvin, many of you know, was a longtime person who worked down at the county, he had his pulse on candidates, and was a longtime committee person and a member of the club, and we miss him. God bless him. So today, to be a member of the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club, you must live in the 14th Ward, right? And you must be a registered Democrat in the 14th Ward to be a voting member. So today, to elect our board, you can still join today if you are living in the 14th Ward and haven't joined us. We're a deal. And we moved to individual memberships. And the reason we did that is because it will be easier for us as a small group of hard workers who have trouble keeping databases or keeping the latest dates on our website. It will make it easier for us to send out our OPA vote ballots. We must have an email address from you so that you will receive a ballot today that will list the candidates for election to the board. So you can join today. However, I want you to mark down right now, April 5th, I'm going to look at my calendar because I am the worst at dates. April 5th is the club fundraiser. What we spend our money on is mailing that mailer to everybody in the 14th Ward, the yellow mailer. So that's what we raise money to do. So that will be April 5th, Shenley Ice Rink in the evening, and April 6th will be our endorsement. Now, it's going to be a hearty day because we have many candidates for judge who will come and speak before you, and you will get an OPA vote link then to vote to endorse candidates. So it's going to be a slog. Hats off to Jane Lewick. During COVID, we did this from my kitchen and did it online when there were like, how many candidates? 25, 30. So there's a lot of judicial candidates that are going to want to hear from you. So please come ready to listen and select candidates on April 6th at Shenley Rink. So today, after this meeting, 4 or 5 o'clock, you will receive your link to select for president Mac Booker, Linda Wren for Vice President of Endorsements, Jane Lewick for Secretary. And you will get to select 7 board members for two-year terms: Sabina Dietrich, Ron Gatos, Liz Haley, David Knoll, Janet Lundy, Frederick Prince, and Chris Zarowski. And Joe Recht is running for a 1-year term. So please look in your junk email and look in your real email this afternoon if you are a member. So I want to now thank the people that worked so hard to plan this event. We had a planning team. Greg is the chair of the planning committee for this meeting, and I want to thank the Democratic Club of the 14th Ward for helping get the word out. I want to thank anybody here who shared online and encouraged a friend to come here today. And I also want to thank Ann Belser, who does print. When you talk about social justice warriors, right? And we talk about trying to find out what's true and what's not true, there isn't anything more hyper-local than someone who cares enough to go to meetings and reports what's happening in our community. And Ann does that so well. So go buy her print and go give her money so she can keep doing this. So now I am going to turn this august meeting over to Greg, who is going to explain how the meeting will run. We have a creative and wonderful dialogue set up for you to learn more about mayoral candidates today. So thank you very much.
So welcome. This is the 2025 Barbara Daly Danko Political Forum, and it is a discussion between the mayoral candidates. This is what democracy looks like. Democracy looks like people making a decision of what's best for them and their friends and their families and their neighbors. And that's what we're starting the process of the November election here. These candidates will meet in the primary, and then the winner will go against the Republican candidate, Moreno, I guess his name is. Anyway, this forum is going to be 2 interviews and a short debate. Each candidate is going to be here for 30 minutes, and Ann Belser is going to interview them about mostly housing, budgets, and how to survive as a blue city in a red country. After that, they'll swap. The other candidate is going to be talking to local students. And then the debate will be question, 2-minute answer, 2-minute answer from the other candidate. So can I invite Mayor Ed Gainey to come up and Ann Belser? Are we ready? Good luck and thank you.
Hello? Okay. I'm on? Okay.
All right. So I want to welcome you all to the Barbara Daly Danko Political Forum as well. And I'm Ann Belser, the publisher of print. And I'm here with my friend, Ed Gainey.
Thank you.
We're going to have a great afternoon ahead of us, or I hope so. And we have a lot of dignitaries in the audience here, but I'm going to ignore you so I don't miss anybody. And but it is like looking out. It's like sitting and looking at all of my old friends, which is lovely. So we also have like a whole bunch of people who are running for judge, the candidates for judge. There are 8 openings this year. And so we have so many that we may need a professional to deal with that infestation. So and Greg told you how this is all going to work. So why don't we start?
We can start.
Okay. Oh, I am going to have ground rules for the audience. I forgot. I wrote that down. So please be quiet. Like, don't cheer. Don't jeer. Don't applaud. Don't. Well, you can laugh at me. But we're not going to turn this into some sort of protest. It's just about local issues, and it's about the job you're doing. It's about the job that Corey wants to do. I'm calling them by their first names because that's how I know them. And so if you start acting up, I'm going to give you the mom look, which my sons know well who are here.
You got to give them an idea. What's the mom look?
Oh, the mom look is the mom look.
Okay, all right.
You don't want the mom look.
See, my mom look was a little different. She didn't say Eddie, she said Edward.
Oh.
And when you got Edward, I knew what time it was.
Okay, Edward. So here we go. We're gonna. Feel free to applaud at the beginning or end of each segment, but let's just keep this, civil. And here we go. My first question is about housing, and it's a huge issue. And we've got a housing crisis, and Pittsburgh is not alone. The shortage nationwide has been estimated between 2 million and 5 million housing units. We just had the 11-hour marathon hearing on zoning changes. And, but new developments, as you know, take 3 years or more to put online. So if you drive in through East Liberty and you look at those new developments at night, the windows are dark because the rents are so high, they're vacant. And the website, bestneighborhoods.org, has estimated East Liberty's vacancy rate to be 25% at a time when we have people sleeping on the streets.
That's right.
So what can we do to encourage property owners to bring those rents down? What can you do to force absentee landlords for low income and student housing to provide a decent place to stay?
First, let me just thank the 14th Ward Independent Democratic Club for having me. I want to thank you for this interview, and I appreciate everybody being here. I understand the housing crisis very well. Coming in, one of the things that I wanted to focus on and be laser focused on was the fact that we need affordable housing. We went through a boom of market rate housing in this city that gave us the ability to lose over 17,000 people in our community. That's a lot of people to lose. We understand that if we go below a certain threshold, we become a third-class city. And why that is important, that is if we become a third-class city, we lose state and federal dollars. And I don't never want to become a third-class city, never. And so we have been laser-focused on creating an affordable housing agenda. And the affordable housing agenda that we created is beginning to pay dividends. Since 2022, we built 2,000 units of affordable housing. We've created 30 million affordable housing bond that we went after and received. I want to thank our state delegation, Senator Jay Costa, Representative Dan Miller, Representative Arion Abney, and the rest of them for the work that they've helped us do. This is unprecedented what I'm getting ready to say. We've had 12 low-income housing tax credit deals in 2 cycles to begin to build affordable housing, construction-wise and preservation-wise. That's amazing. We worked with our federal partners in D.C., Secretary Fudge before she left, as well as Congresswoman Summer Lee, to get $50 million for Bedford's Wellings to build new affordable housing in the Hill District. That's amazing. We just did 140 with Beacon Construction on Lecce School. We've also done some downtown because we understand one thing. If we're not laser focused on affordability, then we're not going to grow the population of this city. Everybody has a right to housing. It's a human right that we all should have. And the fact that we've bled so much people out of this city, we have to be focused on how we rebuild the infrastructure of housing in this city so that we can make sure that we have housing for all. Coming in, we were still cutting through the red tape just to open up 2nd Ave Comms because it wasn't open yet. We should have had 2 shelters already prepared so that our unsheltered population would have the ability to have somewhere to go. Once we started doing that and moving in the right direction, all of a sudden, 2nd Ave catches on fire.
I know.
So now we're back in a situation where we have to start from ground zero because we wasn't prepared in the first place. Now that we got 2nd Ave Comms open, if you go on to the North Side Trail, the Eliza Furnace Trail, you will see exactly what our plan been from way done to provide and make sure that we have shelter that is respectable. When they were downtown on Smithfield, they would have to leave at 7 in the morning. That's trauma. I don't want nobody to experience that level of trauma. We need to be leading with compassion and care. And so now that we have different realms of 2nd Ave Commons being open, and we have some transitional housing that we can use, we have been able to move people off the trails and back into respectable dignity housing. We've done all this in 3 years.
Okay. But what about, so going forward, right, how long is it going to take to get some of that other housing online? The housing that's being built, and also, how do you get people to lower the rents? The rents, as the candidate in New York, the rent's too damn high. So how do you do that? What can we do as a
So
city?
I think there's a couple things, but I think we're already moving in that direction. I think that if you want to talk about it from, let's just talk about it from our zoning package. That's why we want inclusionary zoning. We want inclusionary zoning because there's no reason why I'm only asking for 10% of affordability. They still get 90%. If it's off-site, we're only asking for 12%. They still get 88%. If we're going to make rates come down and be able to control housing costs, then we have to be sure that we are building something that at the end of the day gives people the ability to make $17 a place to live.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. And what does the developer get on their end? We're removing parking minimums. We're creating where we got lot size reform so you can build more units and different housing. We also got transit-oriented development. We got the accessory dwelling units that we're doing. We're doing a lot to create a volume in which we can build more affordable housing. When you ask the question of how are we doing it right now, we got 1,000 units ready to go right now that's at the URA. And let's remember, we just got $600 million from the state, thanks to Josh Shapiro, thanks to Sarah Anamorado, County Exec Sarah Anamorado, and thanks to the business community downtown. For the first time, there used to be a running joke in Harrisburg, and anybody that served in Harrisburg that's here today know what I'm talking about, that you could always separate the West. If the city don't want to do business, you go to the county. If the county don't want to do business, you go to the business community. For the first time, we convened in my office, the public sector and the private sector, to create a deal And in this deal, we would go to the state and ask them for $600 million to reinvest in downtown, to reinvest in our conversion projects, which would give us the ability. We got 7 in the pipeline right now, which would give us the ability to turn commercial office space that won't be used in the residential units, to also talk about our public spaces like Market Square and Mellon Square, to also talk about public safety, that we're continuing to drive down homicides in the city, homicides downtown. We went from 71 to 42, and even though one homicide is too many, at the end of the day, that level of safety makes people feel safe and want to move, but we have to have housing products like the ones I'm talking about, and to ensure that people have a place to go.
You are really hard to get a word in edgewise with. Okay, I have 2 things to say.
Yes, ma'am.
And to ask you about. One is, isn't the homicide rate following a national trend, not just a local trend? And then also, so like, how do you take credit for that when everybody's experiencing the same thing? And the other thing is about the accessory dwelling units, about the minimum lot size. I know that most, well, anybody who's here who owns their own home, right, most of your investment is in that home. And if I can have without zoning, because you bought it in a certain zone, without minimum lot sizes, with this ADU, somebody can build a 30-foot building in their backyard that would, here's a new thing, that would block your view shed. So that's the new
View
term.
shed, huh?
View shed.
You know,
So
they be coming up with
that's
some
your
creative
view.
names.
So yeah, I know, I love that. I heard that this week.
Right.
So if you're worried about most of your value, right? Most of what you have, like individual homeowners have, is in their house. And if all sorts of crap can be built in their somebody else's backyard, do they have a right to say no? And at what point? I mean, I understand the housing thing, and I get it, but I also there are going to be a lot of people who say, wait a second, not in my backyard, because it's literally in their backyard.
So let me start with the public safety aspect, and I'll
Okay.
come into that. I heard you say that we can't take credit for the reduction of
Well, I
homicides.
don't know that you can. Can you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then.
But let me explain that, because that's deep. That's heavy in so many ways, right? Like that we shouldn't take credit. When I came in, there were 71 homicides in the city. The city was on fire.
Was that your first year or the year before
That was
you?
my first year. My
Okay.
first year, 71 homicides in the city. The city was on fire. And if the homicides would have went up, let me ask a question, would they have blamed me?
All right.
So now that
What if it went up nationally, though?
whether it went up nationally or not,
Okay.
I can only control my jurisdiction.
Okay.
And so if the homicides would have went up, would I have got the blame? And so at the end of the day, the homicides went down, not by a little one, not by a little bit, but close to 35% we reduced homicides. And that means something to me. See, I understand that when you talk about kids 13 to 17 years old in 2024, listen to what I'm saying. 13 to 17 years old in 2024, we had no homicides. So let's talk about someone who lost a sister to gun violence. You don't think that means something to me? So when I hear the question of, should I take credit for that? I want to thank my Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, because even understaffed, they've done an incredible job at preserving life. I want to thank my anti-violence interrupters that no one gives credit to, because the only time that you talk about them is when crime is going up, right? Mm-hmm. Can we give them credit because homicides went down? Can we give them credit for the fact that even in schools, the same situation that I came into right here in Squirrel Hill at Starbucks, right on, I think that's on Forward, one of them, that the kids every day were fighting, they were we eliminated that. And we didn't do it by arresting them and putting them in jail. We put our reach team out there. Our reach team was able to reach those children and make sure that they were doing what's right. It's not about who you can put in jail. It's the relationships that we can build that help preserve and save life in this city. Yes, indeed, I'll take credit.
All right. Mom face. So, okay.
Now let me get to the housing.
Yeah.
Let me get to the housing that has segregated this city for so long. Let's talk about the housing that at the end of the day, you keep coming to get taxpayer subsidized money to do your development, but you mad because I can't ask for 10% affordability. You want to talk about how I made it good for developers. Well, if I'm removing parking minimums, if I'm doing a situation where we're changing the lot size reform to give these developers more opportunity to build units. If I'm doing something for you, you can't do something for me. But you want my tax subsidy. Our interests got to get married. Housing is an issue, but when you talk about the rate of return on taxpayer dollars, and I'm supposed to be watching that taxpayers' dollars, don't tell me what you can do if I give you all money for market rate, and at the end of the year, we bled population, and you want to know at the end of the day why we can't. Let's respect her, y'all. Come on, let's respect. It's important. Listen, she asked for it. Let's give it to her.
And it's not a rally. It's a conversation.
Right. And I don't want you giving me the bomb face. So even if we talk about accessory dwelling units and how we can build all them in people's backyards and all that, it's the same conversation I had with the homeless, right? So they would come to me and say, Mayor, you got to do something about our unsheltered population. I got some transitional housing, but it's in such a neighborhood. Oh, no, can't do that, not in my backyard.
Right.
Not in my backyard. We have a housing crisis. I come up in Section 8 housing. I know exactly what it's about. I'm proud of my mama and every mama that had to go through that Section 8 in order to create a life for us. If we are not in a position to we are changing the zoning code to give us the opportunity to build more, we're not trying to hurt nobody's property value. Accessory dwelling units don't do that.
Okay.
People will always say, if we do this, if we do that, there's always going to be obstruction to opportunity. But the opportunity is what I have to look at in order to make sure that we're building a level of housing where everybody has a right of decent housing. Look at East Hills right now. That's why we did the rental registry. And the rental registry was before us, but it took us to come into office, begin to do the things, to work with the law, to change it. No one should have to live in that type of housing. Everything that we do is not going to benefit certain people, but certain people have been eating off this plate for so long and giving nothing back that at the end of the day, the game is changing. And I won't go back on that.
All right. Moving on.
We going forward.
I know.
We going forward. No, I mean, you've been in this situation. You know social justice. Why is it that I can go into certain neighborhoods by zip code and understand exactly who lives there? Why is it that we don't have a middle-class Black and Latino neighborhood? Why is that at the end of the day, we lost so many African Americans from this city, moved out of the city because we built all this market rate housing that did nothing but shrink our population and get us closer to a third-class city than really looking and saying, how do we create a smorgasbord so that everybody has an opportunity to live in our city? I'm not wrong for that. And if any developer feels I'm wrong, ask them why you need my money.
There you go. We're going to go into another question, though.
Go ahead.
All right. Tone it down.
It's not.
I know, you're so
it's
great,
the
though.
passion, though, because I
I
got
know.
to be honest. I grew up here. I know this. I love this city. I do. I mean, listen, all the negative, all the positive. I love this city because I couldn't be me without it. But I've also seen the injustice. I've experienced the injustice. I'm not a student of, I'm a product of.
All right.
And so at the end of the day, I know what it takes to move this city forward. If I can stand up to the nonprofits of the world, the Post-Gazettes of the world, the developers of the world, in order to get some integrity to a point that we've evened the playing field so that everybody can feel welcome, let that be.
All right. So let's talk about the federal government. And
Oh, wow,
here we go. I mean, you know. Well, not the whole federal government.
You got something stronger than some water?
So, I know you've been very vocal about your position on ICE coming into the city, but I'm going to give you a chance to tell everybody here. And also, you know, they're coming in and they're harassing people who are even in the country legally, or even were born here. But here's the question I have for you. First off, let's give you a position, because you haven't. But what happens if the federal government threatens you with jail?
If they threaten me with jail.
If they threaten you with jail.
I'm going to start praying. You know what I mean? I mean, like, you know.
We'll give your position first, and then.
I mean,
yeah.
I want to make this the most welcoming city in America. It goes back to what I said before, a city of segregation can't never be incorporated together. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we have a right, because we are a city of immigrants. We have Polish Hill, Squirrel Hill. We are a city of immigrants. And I like that. I like it because it's diversity of life. And so I'm not interested in helping anybody, and we don't have a problem in this city, and the numbers justify this, of a lot of immigrants that have done a lot of different things, because at the end of the day, we're all immigrants. And so I'm not looking forward to helping anybody hurt somebody. My job is to keep this city safe. And I've been working from day one to keep this city safe. And the reason why that is important to me is because I don't see where ICE coming in and harassing, kicking open doors and taking people and putting them in jail and deporting them for this country. That is not something that keeps people safe. That is a trauma mechanism that will trigger some things that will make people act out in a way that hurts society, not better it. If they want to fix, if they're really sincere, I'm talking about really sincere, right? Not just joking about it, you want to give up. If they're really sincere, fix the federal legislation so that you can have an immigration pathway to citizenship, so that we can get past this. You can put all the money in the wall that you want to put in the wall to build the wall, but how are we going to put all this money to build the wall, but we don't even have no shelter for the homeless?
Okay, let's
we
bring
don't
this
even
back
have no
to-
money for the poor.
But let's bring this back to Pittsburgh.
Right.
And what are you telling your police? What are you telling your staff, the city workers?
Be welcoming.
Okay.
Be welcoming.
So they're not supposed to work with ICE?
Be welcoming.
If
They
ICE
understand what that means. And
Okay.
I made it clear what it means. I made it clear what it means. I'm not going, listen, I'm not going to pretend like me taking that stance, I wasn't scared. I know I'm a target. I know I've been a target my whole life. I know I'm a target. So when I took that stance, I knew what I was doing. But I believe in the fact that you don't make people live in trauma, because that's a trigger that at the end of the day brings violence that we don't want in our city. And so I've been very clear, and I was the first one to come out and say it. The same thing with the DEI. I was the first one to come out and say it. That at the end of the day, if we don't create programs so that we can catch up for what we didn't have in the past, we're not building a nation to give opportunity. We're still building a nation that says, I'm going to prevent you from moving forward. We have to create as many paths to opportunities as we can, so when people come here, they don't leave. They want to stay, they stay because they see the culture reflective in our community. That's all we building. So whether it's DEI, whether it's ICE, I'm not with any policy that harms people. I understand that. And I don't want to harm nobody. I want to build a city, and I will build a city for all. Just watch. We're already doing it. We're already doing it. Every policy that we put forward is about people. And that's a big fight. Listen, I tell people all the time, most politicians come and all they do is talk about issues. And as long as they can give a nice academic conversation about the issues that we're going to have, that's fine. Everybody can have an academic lesson. I'm not about academic lessons.
Let's not
I'm
put down
about the
academics.
execution.
There's like 50 of them in the room.
I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Don't get me wrong. I love y'all. But let's be honest. There's a difference between theory and execution. And what we're doing is executing the plan, not planning to execute. We got to continue to build a city for all. And that means making sure that public safety is where it's never been before. That's making sure that housing is in an area that we're building it for everybody. If we're not building a city for all, then don't tell me we're leaving yesterday. You want to leave yesterday? Help me build a city where everybody feels included, where every zip code that you go into, you got nice housing, you got safe neighborhoods. I was so thrilled when I found out Homewood only had 2 homicides in 1 year.
I know.
Should I take credit for that?
I think Print should take credit for that, yeah.
Purple rain.
No, Print, not Prince.
Oh, Print.
Print, the newspaper.
No, I mean, you've
No.
been a heck of
No,
an
but-
advocate, so when I'm speaking to you ain't new. You've interviewed me a number of times. You sat with me a number of times. You know I'm not one to talk about what's going to happen. I'm going to execute. A lot of people don't even know the things that I just rambled off that we've done because I'm not going to get good press. Wonder why? Oh, that's right. I don't speak to the Post-Gazette, right? Because at the end of the day, me not speaking to the Post-Gazette is because I'm supporting workers, working class families. But here's the catch, though. I'm not the only one that don't speak to the Post-Gazette. Sarah, it's county exec,
Right.
the governor. But why am I the target?
There you go. But here's the question. So let's talk about North Homewood Avenue.
Yes.
Because North Homewood Avenue, Larimer Avenue, there are places that had thriving business districts. And I know that there's work to try to bring those back. But tell me a little bit about your plans for the coming administration,
Well, let's talk about Larimer Avenue
Okay.
first. I believe that Donna Jackson, Chase Patterson has done an incredible job of changing the image of Larimer. Larimer is no longer a violent neighborhood. And so at the end of the day, I think the new housing that's went up in Larimer has been a benefit. I think the squash has been a benefit. I think the ability that Dredd is doing to reshape his business and also add a commercial establishment to be able to sell Caribbean food is a benefit. So I think that you see the Larimer Consensus Plan actually gaining momentum. And they know whatever I can do to assist them. We're already in conversations with them to help them talk about their 100 for 100 plan. We want to be able to be partners in that. I also think that the addition of Councilman Kahari Mosley, really working closely with those communities, bringing them together, has been a benefit. Now, I will say this too now. It's been a little bit difficult because you know how active I was in the 24th Legislative District. And so a lot of times I've taken a back seat because I want Kahari and Latasha May, I apologize, Councilman Kahari Mosley and State Representative Latasha Mays to really be able to get in there and create their own environment. And wherever I can assist as a mayor, I will do. North Homewood Avenue, you asked me about. So let's talk about North Homewood Avenue. We are beginning to talk about how we build North Homewood Avenue out. You'll probably see a little bit more housing, more than you'll see commercial, because that corridor is great for transit-oriented development. So as we talk about North Homewood Avenue, from a transit-oriented development standpoint, it makes sense to continue to build on some of those houses there till we get up to Frankstown and begin to talk about how we redevelop Frankstown.
And we have communities all over the city who have these issues. I mean, we even have some vacancies in Squirrel Hill, business vacancies. What do you do to make it a more business-friendly environment?
To make it a more business-friendly environment, you have to look and see what'll make place right now, like supporting entrepreneurs. Like, at the end of the day, the North Homewood Pizza Shop, and as well as they're doing down there. Seeing that's a heck of a. You should clap for that. That's a heck of a development.
No, I have to say that pizza shop.
They doing it.
Every time I go there, like
Dana's
they are.
Bakery.
Oh
doing
yeah,
it.
Dana's Bakery.
Been there for a long time doing it. So
And
we have
Solid's Hardware if you ever need anything.
Yeah, Solid's Hardware, and thank you for letting me know what happened too. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy. It's working with the community to bring businesses that will set the new environment, because we're not going back to yesterday. So the same level of commercial that you seen 50, 60 years ago, that's gone. We have to start looking about, from a commercial standpoint, what'll work today. And so the things that I'm talking about are working with the community, supporting the entrepreneurship, supporting the development on Frankstown like Dina Blackwell's, trying to make sure that she's okay so that we can continue to develop around her. Take the initiative of the ownership that is there right now and the entrepreneurs that exist in those communities, and start creating programs, not programs that don't move. I'm so tired of programs that don't move, but programs that help build a community by looking and seeing what the basis of what that community needs right now. That's the emphasis of commercial development.
All right. Are we? 2 minutes? Okay, go wild. You got 2 minutes.
You ain't gonna give me that mama look? Listen, I want to say thank you. And I want to thank everybody here. I appreciate this opportunity because a lot of times we have done some phenomenal work in the city. From reducing the homicide rate, non-fatal shootings are down, to a housing bond of $30 million to build more affordable housing and preserve housing that we had, to $10 million in our housing opportunity fund. 37 million of our ARPA dollars have went to housing. Never before unprecedented, 12 low-income housing tax credits in 2 cycles. Able to clear off the trails on the north side and the Eliza Furnace Trail. The most diverse administration the city has ever seen. NFL draft coming next year. $600 million from the state for redevelopment downtown. The list goes on. Traffic calming patterns like have never been seen before. We boost the budget. And let me be honest, I want to also give a shout out to the Department of Public Works. When I came in, it took us 4 days to get 2 inches of snow off the ground. We invested a lot of funding in the Department of Public Works. And we always say, give us 24 hours, and if your street is not done in 24 hours, call us and we'll go get it. You know what's happening now? One, we have a reduction in the amount of calls on snow days. We're getting to 311. But here's what happens. If it starts snowing 2 hours later, I'm getting telephone calls. I got some snow on my street, Ed. Like, what's going on? It's been 2 hours. Give them an opportunity to get there. And let me say something.
To sweep my sidewalk, Ed.
And let me say something that I want to end with because I think it's extremely important. And this question wasn't here, but there's been a lot of conversation. May I?
Sure.
I want to tell you how proud I am of Chief Larry Scarrato. And I want to tell you exactly what happened because there was a lot of misinformation out there about it. I made a promise to the police department and the Department of Public Works when I took this position that at the end of the day, I would never criticize them in public because you can't build morale. You could just tear people down. Larry came to me when he first got elected and asked me, could he referee? And I said, no. I said, the only thing I care about is getting homicides down. He said, well, you know, we got this new 21st policing. I said, I really don't care about that right now. I just want to reduce homicides. He came to me and said that he got he said, if I get homicides down, can we revisit this conversation? I said, we can. So from the door, there was no backroom deals like was reported in the media. That was misinformation. I got to stop.
Nope.
So.
All right. Thanks, David.
I was going to finish it, but that's it. Hey, thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mama.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mama, appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate how you doing. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. My appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Did everybody hear that?
Thank you.
Please smush together so we can get other people into the building.
Thank you.
This is apparently very popular. We're happy.
You feel?
This is Ed's.
Yeah. Do we have Corey O'Connor yet? Is he back from his outing with the students?
I told Michelle 25 minutes.
Yeah, please have a seat so more people can come in.
My mic is on. That's all right. That's who they are.
So as soon as Corey O'Connor comes back from the students, we'll start the second interview. Shouldn't be more than a minute or two.
Yeah, there's some seats up front.
So I want to thank you all for coming and keeping our institutions alive. One of the things you want to do in a situation like this where the federal government is so unruly is basically do what you can to keep local institutions alive. And that's what we're doing. We hope to have an active election. We hope to have a fair election. I think we will. And we're here to, decide who's the best person to run Pittsburgh. And nobody else is going to make that decision but us. And,
Door opens, we all go like this.
every time the door opens, we're waiting for the candidate to come in. Yeah. I mean, I hope the students haven't treated him too roughly.
Here comes Corey all bruised.
But yeah.
I will tell you, you found on your flyers today, on your seats flyer from Fair District, PA, also another good group to plug into. Tonight, there's going to be a large phone call online with Indivisible throughout America. I can't encourage you enough to find other organizations to bond with and to learn from. Because right now, the information that we're getting on our phones is going to be typed in through people who are controlling our phones. So the only way
There we go.
the only way we're really going to know what's happening is to be in touch with each other. And so I want to keep reinforcing that. And now Corey is here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, no.
No, it's
I'm
not you.
sorry. What am I saying?
We're glad you survived the students.
Good to see you. That's
Corey
a new one.
O'Connor, candidate
No,
for
it's for
mayor.
you. It's okay.
Make sure your
And
microphone's
it looks
on.
like, for those who are online, I just want to say that this place is packed. And this is what Pittsburgh does when we don't have football. So. True, right?
It's true. It's true. Yes.
If the Steelers were playing, we'd have 4 of you. Okay, so I already went
I
through
hope your
this.
questions are easier than the last group. They asked me what my favorite Bluey episode was, so.
Oh, yeah? Well, you would know.
I watch a lot of Bluey, yes.
So for those of you who don't know, how many, you have 2 kids, how old are they
2,
now?
3 and 1.
3 and 1, so.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bluey in the house. Okay, so we're gonna start with, we'll just hit it off the bat.
Okay.
And everybody's been warned, they're not supposed to clap and make noise, and I've been pointing at Moira. And we're gonna start with housing.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll read, you've already heard this, but I'll read it the same thing. Pittsburgh's not alone in the housing issue. Nationwide, we have a shortage of about, that's been estimated as low as 2 million and as high as 5 million housing units. And we just had an 11-hour marathon hearing on zoning changes. New developments take 3 years or more to get online, though. So if you go through East Liberty, the luxury apartments, a lot of those windows at night are dark because they're vacant and the rents are too high, or too high for normal Pittsburghers, for your average Pittsburgher. And the website bestneighborhoods.org has estimated East Liberty's vacancy rate at 25%, while we have people sleeping on the trails. So what can we do as a city to encourage property owners to bring down the rent? But also what can we do to force absentee landlords or property owners to for low income and student housing to make sure that their tenants have a decent place to stay?
Okay, so it starts with, I assume you guys were talking about inclusionary zoning. So I support inclusionary zoning. I voted for it in Lawrenceville and Bloomfield. What's going on right now, though, is a bill that doesn't actually help the entire market. Each neighborhood is different. So when you talk about inclusionary zoning, you have to actually be inclusive in having all neighbors and residents and organizations come to the table to talk about housing. That's what we did when we started the Housing Opportunity Fund. That's the type of leadership that you need to have those detailed conversations. And I believe that we can build affordable housing all over Pittsburgh. Everybody said we couldn't do it in Squirrel Hill. The gateway to Squirrel Hill, under myself as councilman, is affordable housing units. You can do this when you have people lined up, when you have properties available, when you start looking at tax incentives, when you start looking at waiving fees, like tap-in fees at PWSA, when you look at RCAPs and other LIHTC grants that you can build affordable units all over Pittsburgh. And right now, we aren't having that conversation. Again, inclusionary zoning is a tool that I would love to use, but each market is completely different. So we have to have that conversation. Your second part was about the rents too high. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So what you have to do is, one, clear a backlog out at the Housing Authority, who have a lot of people sitting and waiting on vouchers. Let's start using those vouchers, getting people into units because they deserve it. And I assume the other part of that question was talking about unhoused individuals, or are we talking about that later?
We can talk
Okay.
about that whenever you want.
Okay.
I
didn't know if we were following, but yeah.
So this it's sort of that's sort of a scene setter.
Okay, all right, got it.
And let's just talk about what's going on. All right. But one thing about the housing vouchers is that they're handing out housing vouchers. I mean, well, they've stopped actually for a while because somebody gets a voucher, they walk, they look for an apartment and they can't find one because back to the rent's too damn high.
Right.
So.
And that's where you have to go to the vacant spaces and the landlords and the owners and say, look, this is where you have to partner with the city of Pittsburgh. These individuals need space. We need space all over city. We have empty units everywhere in Pittsburgh. And that's where you have to be at the forefront of that conversation. Again, just like we did when you're talking about credits, when you're talking about the Housing Opportunity Fund, when you're talking about getting loans at the URA in order to do more affordable units. The other thing that we don't have enough of are shovel-ready sites to build new across Pittsburgh. And that's something that has to be discussed.
How do you get that?
How do you get that? Well,
you want to take a drink first?
No, I'm good. You start actually looking at where we have wasted money over the last few years. We had $340 million from COVID relief money that went to hiring 100 new employees in the city of Pittsburgh. Who's going to pay for those 100 employees? We should have been planning a city of the future where we take care of blight and restore land so that we can reuse it, where we start investing in IT and things that we need that are going to help build the city of the future. And we also start investing in our own equipment. Right now, we are renting trucks for public works. Those $340 million that was wasted, and we're hiring more people that we don't have the funding in the next couple of years to pay for.
I'm giving you the mom face right now.
Detention, everybody gets detention.
Absolutely, yeah. So, right.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not
Okay, I'm
agreeing with
waiting.
you, but yeah, you can go. But what about? But what are you going to do? What's your position on? There's inclusionary things, but there's a whole menu of options that are on the table right now. Where are you on those?
So I think cleaning up the code is a good thing. I think that our code and zoning has been way out of date. And that's conversations that we just had about Oakland development with the kids and density issues and additional dwelling units. So I think cleaning up the code is the right way to do it. But I also think, again, you have to bring in people that want to talk about this issue all across Pittsburgh. It can't just be a select few.
Okay. So let's get some specifics. All right. So cleaning up the code means?
Means, again, in certain areas where your density might be 2 floors. Well, if you want to build more, let's clean it up to where it's 4 in certain areas. You know, when it talks about adding additional dwelling units like a, what do they call it,
ADU? The ADU thing?
The ADUs, where the city is actually on the right path in cleaning up those bills. But the problem is those bills got stuck with an inclusionary zoning bill, and we're not actually moving those bills forward, and they have to be moved forward.
So I'll ask you what I just asked Ed with the ADUs, right? Somebody has a house, and they've put all their wealth into that house, and their next door neighbor builds a 30-foot ADU with a garage and everything, blocks their view shed. And so, what do you say to them?
That's why, again, when you clean up code, it can't just be given to somebody by right. You usually have a neighbor, or you go through the planning commission, or an approval to do something to that extreme. But that's why when you clean up the code,
in the legislation, right? It's like you can put a 2-car
No,
garage.
and we had that happen right down the block from where I grew up. Somebody went on the garage and built a 3-story building. Like, you can't do that. Those are the types of things that have to be, again, coherent with the neighborhood itself and the feel of the neighborhood. You just don't want to come in and start building high everywhere. And that's why, depending on what the zoning code says, you have to go step by step and clean it up so that you can do those things.
And how are you on removing the minimum lot size?
Minimum
lot size per unit?
It depends on where you're at. Again, if somebody wants, to buy the side lot from their own house, yes, that's not a problem. If somebody wants to buy an entire block, let's see who those individuals are, and does it fit into a community plan, or do the neighbors have something, especially, like we had to do that a lot in Hazelwood when we had speculators come in because of Hazelwood Green that was going to be built. So we made sure that Hazelwood Initiative and community groups did not see somebody come in and buy 5 lots at a time. We were very cautious of speculators come in, sit on that piece of land, never do anything with it, and then all of a sudden the neighborhood group would like to build a house there, and somebody in California now wants $200,000. Those are the types of things that you have to do, and you have to look at it lot by lot and bring the community group to the table to do those things.
But what do you say to the folks that, I know, because I know Homewood very well, right? What do you say to the folks in Homewood who want to buy, the business owner who wants to buy their land, right? That wants to buy the building that their business is in, but the owner won't sell because they're waiting for the URA to come in, and people are holding on to land, hoping and also often like with vacant houses, hoping a business owner or the URA is going to come in and pay top dollar and then sell, they buy high, sell low.
So your question is, if I own a business and I'm renting a business.
Right.
And I would like to own the land, but the property owner isn't giving it to me.
Because they're waiting.
Okay, so if that's the case, the city owns 11,000 lots. If that's the one thing that we are not doing, is putting resources back in residents, young entrepreneurs who want to do that. So if you're the city, you have a forward thinking to say, okay, you want to own your own piece of property? Let's work together. We'll give you a spot right down the street, and we'll help you invest and build it, and then you create your own wealth. You're the owner of it. We have 11,000 parcels. So if somebody is holding out on that building and won't let a storefront owner who's owned it for 40 years, let's say a pizza shop, and they want to own that property, it's up to the city to then work with that individual to get them space so that they can create their own wealth. That's the other thing we didn't talk about when it comes to housing. We are not creating our own wealth because we aren't encouraging more home ownership. We know that generations of residents in this city, had not had the ability to own their own home. And that creates wealth in neighborhoods that they have not seen before. So if you're going to think outside the box on how to help that owner, it comes to the city to do it, not to wait for a landlord to hopefully sell it 10 years from now.
In the inclusionary zoning legislation, it calls for, if somebody's going to build a large development of, let's say, 20 units, right, and sell it, then still 2 units have to be for low-income owner occupants. And for the life of the building, it keeps those units. They can only sell it. I think the prices can only go up 2% a year. So, which is not quite what inflation is often, right? So, where are you on that?
I said inclusionary zoning is a bill that I voted for. It just, you have to take market to market. Each one is different. Each neighborhood is different. And you have to figure out, and that's where leadership comes on board. You just don't want a flat bill, and that's basically what we're doing right now. That's going to solve all the problems. Well, some people might not want to do that. So what you actually do is you sit down and here's a prime example of what I would do. Here's a developer that wants to do 10 units. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at tap-in fees, things like that we were just talking about. Okay, 7 of those units can be market rate. The other 3 have to be affordable. And we also have to push for affordable ownership. And then those individuals that aren't tied into a 5-year deal where they are stuck living there for whatever the time frame is, they should have the right that if they own it, they can sell it whenever they want.
And would that be for a lower price, or would that be at
No, that would be for a lower price. I mean, you'd have to have it affordable at that price. So market's here, lower price is here, or affordability is here.
And how do you enforce that?
You are owning these properties.
But they don't. Somebody buys it.
I said if somebody is coming to us to negotiate that, that's when you have those conversations. And you have to be forward thinking to ensure that that happens. Again, we've done it before. I've done it before. Nobody thought we could do an affordable housing trust fund. We have that. There are tools in the toolbox that we aren't using, and the big shame of it is we are not growing, and we are not growing fast enough. We need more than 1,000 units a year. Other cities are flying past us. Harrisburg built the same amount of units as we did last year. That's a shame. We should be actually building and building and building so that we can have affordable units all over Pittsburgh, and we're not doing it. We're stuck in a stalemate of not building and growing, and that affects a lot of people.
What's holding us back?
What's holding us back? Well, can I just say the administration? No. What's holding us back? Again, not a vision to do this. I mean, where is the vision for growth?
What are the specific things, right? Like, what I want to do something, and it's not like, oh gosh, the administration won't let me. It's what is it?
Actually, they won't. If you go to planning and zoning, they are turning down developments with affordable housing in them. So you already have the image that Pittsburgh is not welcoming to people that want to build any type of housing, regardless of what it is. And then when you go to our permit system, there is no reason why permits should take 5 to 6 months to do it. California is looking at a bill where it would be 15 days to get a permit. That's for anything. That is how you speed up the process. You get PLI working faster so that Pittsburgh is open for business, so that if you wanted to put a fence in your backyard, it doesn't take 6 months to do it. Those are the little things that will streamline a process so that people want to invest back in Pittsburgh. Right now, we throw up blocks and hurdles all over, and it's not just with independents that want to do it, it's with community groups and organizations. And some organizations have gotten money over and over and over again, and they're not producing for their neighborhoods. And we hear that all over the city.
Okie doke. All right. Where are we here? How are we on time? 15 minutes. Okay, great. So we're going to move on to ICE and the federal government and all of our friends in Washington.
Our best friends, yeah, right.
We love you. Don't arrest us. So what is your position on ICE coming into the neighborhoods?
No.
Okay, and then. All right, now we're done.
It's easy. I saved 5 minutes. Yeah, no,
But,
absolutely
okay,
not.
So what do, so, and how do you do that, right? How do you do that? And also, what happens if they say, all right then, Corey, we're going to arrest you?
Bring it on. Because you know what? I had death threats before. I was told I was going to be arrested when I fought for common sense gun laws. So if you don't think, or anybody in this room, or anybody watching online doesn't think that I could stand up and fight for protect the residents of the city, they're absolutely wrong. So, you know, the DA did it, other people did it. I've been threatened to go to jail before. My wife, you know, would probably be happy to get me out of the house for a little bit. But in reality, here's the details of it. So I was here 4 years ago under this administration. And we know we did not get federal funding, and we know that we're not going to get it, which, again, I hate to date back to it, but that's why that $340 million through COVID that was wasted really is going to hurt this city in the future, when other cities were investing in other things that we mentioned before. But what it comes down to is just the daily operations of the city. So you say, why did I say no to ICE, or why would I say no? If I am walking down the street.
Or how?
Okay. So if I'm walking down the street, and let's say you have immigration status that you're concerned about, and something were to happen to me, I would have a heart attack, I'd trip and fall, whatever it might be, you will be hesitant to call 911. And that is what we have to get away from. Because if you need to call the paramedics, the fire, or the police for any emergency, when you're within the city of Pittsburgh area, I don't care who you are, if you're a visitor or a permanent resident, I want you to feel safe for your rights and your protections. We have to have that ability. And for other cities to cooperate with them creates a bigger safety issue for those residents.
There you go.
Sorry, there you go, sorry.
Sorry. I had another question, I can't remember what it is. Well, when you, I'll ask you this one. How come you're running?
How come I'm running?
You have a pretty good job. Right?
Some days.
Yeah.
No, I'm running because, you know, I just think we deserve better as a city. Right now, we see an administration that is managing decline instead of talking about growth. I see a city that's not able to provide basic city services. If you look at our streets over the last 2 weeks, how are our streets not getting plowed? You know, little things like that. We're also renting trucks. I see a city that's not planning for a future, not being, I would say, transparent about our financial status as well. In the county, I was the first one to raise the alarm on $80 million that we were going to be short. As mayor, I want to take my progressive values that I had on city council when it came down to fighting for prevailing wage, when it came down to sick leave, when it came down to gun control, when it came down to affordable housing, early childhood education. Those pragmatic, progressive values that I have, I want to bring to the mayor's office because I know how to bring people to the table to actually get things done for Pittsburgh, and we're not doing that right now.
Who needs to be at the table?
Who needs to be at the table? Residents, neighbors. Diversity needs to be at the table. We need to have people from all across Pittsburgh sitting at our table talking about various issues. Organizations that have been left out for so many years. Organizations that are doing work but need assistance to do more work. Those are the conversations that have to be had right now.
Okay, so how do you take, this is one of the questions I had for Ed, which is when you look at some of the neighborhoods, right, and I use North Homewood Avenue and Larmer Avenue as examples, but also Squirrel Hill has some vacancies. How do you push business development in those areas? Because it's great to live there, right? And we have housing that's going up in Larmer, but how do you get the businesses in there that'll keep people so that you can walk out and get a cup of coffee? You can have that walkabout.
Sorry. So first, you start with prioritizing money in the budget for areas like that. So what we just did was we spent $6 million from a New York company to come in and do a citywide planning study. We have planners. We have the Department of Planning. We have neighborhood organizations that have done plans that can combine into look at a citywide plan. That's $6 million. We should be spending $1 million in 6 neighborhood business districts that have transit lines, that have vacant storefronts, or that you could build new storefronts. That's where you start redeveloping the hearts of neighborhoods. We live in Squirrel Hill. The heart of Squirrel Hill is Murray and Forbes. We can have 6 major intersections like that if we would have taken and prioritized neighborhoods and people first above another citywide plan. That's where you have to focus and get right to the heart of how you rebuild our neighborhoods and give people chances and opportunities to grow, create wealth, and home ownership within their neighborhoods. You prioritize and you spend money there.
Okay. But I still don't understand how you're doing it. Like, so you spend money, but you spend money on what? You spend money on, like, what I'm trying to get is like, what's the piece here?
Okay, you take $1 million, okay? And there is a corner that has a bus line going through it. There's a vacant building, vacant storefront. Let's say we own it, but if there's a vacant space next to it, let's say we don't own the storefront, but we own the vacant space. You invest that $1 million right there, and you bring neighbors and residents and community groups into that corner so that you've now created a vibe in that neighborhood. You start with young entrepreneurs who have never gotten a chance before.
So you're building buildings to...
It can either be built or rehabbed, but
Okay.
right in that heart of the neighborhood, because then the domino effect happens that you're creating jobs, you're creating wealth, you're creating opportunities and vibrancy in communities. Right now, you're not doing those things. You're looking at studies that have been done multiple times.
Well, the URA is putting money into rehabbing rehabbing buildings. And rehabbing those buildings costs a whole lot more than $1 million for some of them. The cost of construction is like skyrocketing. So how do you prioritize too? What neighborhoods? How do you, there's all that.
And that's where you look at neighborhoods that have not seen that type of investment and know that if you build a corridor, that then the domino effect happens. And you look at, let's go straight down Frankstown. Go down Frankstown, pick any intersection you want. Let's invest in that intersection because that goes straight through the neighborhood. We know that there have been businesses on that neighborhood before, right on that main drag. You look at where there's new housing with choice housing as well. You kind of combine it and do that, and you have a planning department that does that. That's where it's, why are we wasting money when we could actually be spending it and producing good things for our residents right now that we're not?
All right.
That's the frustrating part, yeah.
How are we doing on time, Dave?
9 minutes. Oh, should I take longer
See,
to answer
things
these
go,
questions?
Like way yeah, brevity is the soul of wit, though. Let's talk about. I am sorry. Like he went through these questions way faster than the other guy.
Can we take audience questions? That would be really fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. Well, okay. Here's the thing.
I'm just kidding.
Here's the one thing. What is the most important aspect of the job?
The most important, obviously, leadership, being present. You're going to have to make difficult decisions, and you're not going to please everybody. Or maybe that's somebody calling in a question, phone in a friend.
Can you stop it? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Who
was it? Do you want me to answer?
Right. Hi, Mom.
No, I think you also in this job you cannot be a mayor that looks at social media, bad articles, Twitter, all of that. You have to have a goal and in mind, and you cannot let social media dictate how you operate, because not everybody's going to love every decision you make, and that's the reality of the world that we live in. But if you have a goal and a plan that we are presenting to the people of Pittsburgh and you follow it, you will get a lot accomplished. And that's the tough job.
Well,
you're not going to please everybody. I learned it on council. Somebody's street didn't get paved, the other neighbor did. Like little things like that, you're not going to please everybody. So if you have a plan, which we do, and you're going to follow it, that's the type of leader that you have to be. You cannot just all of a sudden, because of a bad article, do something the opposite. That's not how you have to go.
You do have to deal with council.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say
Right,
that.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Like might have a plan. You may have a plan, but 5 members of council may have a very different plan.
And that goes back to the inclusionary zoning conversation. Those members need to be part of a long-term solution. For my 11 years on council, I will count maybe on my hand when we didn't have 9-0 votes or 8-1 votes multiple times because somebody didn't like the mayor at the time. We won't get into that. But, that's the type of leadership that you bring. We did affordable housing. I can go through the litany again, but those are difficult issues that, council members should have a say. They should be sitting down around the clock figuring these things out. Bills don't just happen overnight. and they can't just be rushed through, because rushing through a policy, especially in the next couple months for political purposes, is not going to actually help us in the long term. So to me, I respect every member of council because I know how difficult their job is. But that's why you bring them in with our vision when it talks to youth and families that we announced, and say, hey, what can we start with youth and families in your district? How would you prioritize that? And you go through the budget with council members.
There you go.
That's what I'm used to, yeah. I like council members, yeah.
Well, I hope so, yeah.
They have a tough job.
There's a few here. And so, we're good? 5 more minutes, okay. And this is what I did for Ed, so go wild. What do you want to say?
Go wild?
Yeah, you have a whole bunch of people here.
Is this being
a whole
taped?
bunch of people.
No.
Yeah,
I'm
it's on
just
YouTube
kidding, I'm
too.
just kidding.
I mean, like, you have the whole city at your disposal
Finally
here.
made it to YouTube?
I know. Well, there's a whole story about the
Wow,
planning show.
can we not go to that, please? Please,
But-
please, 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 please.
So,
Yes.
No, I was going to
I
talk
know
about
why
the
I
channel.
was a celebrity for a day. Let's not do that one. Yeah, right, we got it.
All right,
Yeah, we're good.
okay. But anyway, go ahead. Say, what do you want to say?
No, I mean, I would just want, I want to say that for me, I'm eager to do this job. Lived in this city my whole life. I have a 3 and a 1-year-old. I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. I see Pittsburgh at a crossroads right now where we have to grow as a city. Each and every community has a seat at my table. They did when I was on council. I'm not going to change my strategy. I'm a nice guy. I get that all the time. But sometimes you have to make difficult decisions, and we have to hold people accountable. And right now, this city is not being held accountable. We have to be held accountable for the resources that aren't being given to neighbors and residents. And that's why I looked at it. You said, look, county controller, it's a great job. But I look at my city and say, I needed to step up right now because we are at a crossroads. And 4 more years of this administration, we will not survive. We are going to be back in Act 47 because we are sleepwalking our way into another deficit. And we have to start growing, bringing people to the table to do it. And I believe my skills, my 11 years on city council, my partnership with council members, I can do this job and I don't need a transition. I can start the job day one.
All right.
So,
Can we end a little early? Thank you so much.
did that waste 5 minutes? I tried.
No, it did
I
not.
added a
He said-
couple
like
ones.
he said- That's okay.
2 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm
I think
answering
we're- I
these
think we're-
questions too
I-
long.
I-
How that money could have been better. Oh, thank you. Yes. So $342 million. We spent $50 million to basically keep us afloat because that was what it was required to do. Other cities went out, invested in technology, especially with AI coming to the city. And
You
we
don't
know
have to
that
yell, you're mic'd.
Oh, sorry, I'm mic'd. I thought she was over there. I was trying to yell her the answer. Sorry about
Yeah, no.
that. So again, it's cleaning out sites. We have a lot of vacant, dilapidated properties. Should have been used for that. Should have been used to buy new equipment, to invest in technology across this city. And we did not do that. And that's the shame of it because we know, as I said, the new administration is not going to do that. And that's where I think we lost a huge chance to have Pittsburgh in the same conversations like we used to be with Columbus and Cleveland. We are no longer in their conversations anymore. And we have to get back to building that city where we are starting to compete. I also think you look at it and say, what are the last time we talked to our local businesses and our startups who need space to grow in Pittsburgh? Can't remember the last 10 companies that decided to take a place either downtown or in a vacant lot or a vacant space. Like, those are the conversations we have to have because we have to grow. We have to grow with the people that are here. I just left a room with students who want to live here. That goes to Pitt and CMU, Duquesne, and Point Park's a group we don't talk enough about. That is a huge opportunity for us to grow, and it's right here in Pittsburgh. We don't have to drive out of town to encourage that type of growth and development and invest in the next wave of Pittsburghers, and they're right here at our fingertips. Sorry.
Right. Thanks so much.
We got to be out of time at this
I know
point.
we got to be out of time. So, hey,
I'm trying my best.
thank
yeah.
you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And here comes Greg Kaczynski for the part 2.
okay.
We're going to do a.
Stage for a moment and then come back
There's
for the debate.
time for a bathroom break if anybody needs it, and as they're going to rearrange the stage.
Not a lot of rearranging, though.
Not much.
Okay, we have both candidates available. Is Ann Belser available? Okay, yeah, we're about to get started again, so please sit down and we'll begin with the debate. So the debate will be on topics we've already worked through, more or less. And the debate will be on the topics of housing, budget, and federal government. And these will be 2-minute answers, one from each question. We'll alternate who answers first. And Ann, it's yours.
So first off, I had a conversation with the folks from Walnut Capital just now. Turns out, they say, the East Liberty, the housing is much higher, the vacancy rate is much lower, and there's almost none. And they have numbers to back it up. So, and since they own half of East Liberty, no, I'm kidding. But I'll trust them. So, okay, so actually, the questions are not just on the federal government and housing and that sort of thing. We already talked about that. So we're going to talk about a couple things that are really, I was in control of what the final questions were. And this one is one that's, let's start with Corey first because Ed, you went first for the conversation. So this one is near and dear to most Pittsburghers' hearts, and it's traffic control. We have, yeah.
Explain to the audience how much time.
Oh, okay, sure.
How it's going to go.
So I'll ask a question. You have 2 minutes to answer. The next person has 2 minutes to answer the same question, and then we'll move on. If you have a rebuttal, you can start it in the beginning of your next answer, but we're gonna it's gonna be fast. Lightning round, kind of like wait, don't tell me, right? I'll say a limerick and then you finish it. Okay. So the first question is about traffic control, and we're gonna take speed humps, which do sound a little bit naughty. But everybody wants a speed hump on their street, and nobody wants them anywhere else. They add to pollution as cars slow down to hit the speed hump, and then they speed up and they hit the gas again. And our speed humps have no design standards, clearly. Some will take out the bottom of a small car, even at the 15 miles an hour you want to go over them. So what is the policy on this? Like, how did this all start? What are the stats to back these up? And is speeding that big a problem when pedestrian accidents happen at intersections? What do you do going forward?
So the question is speed humps when they started?
Well, what are you going to do going forward?
Okay.
Take speed humps and
so
go
yeah,
with them.
so when I was on council, we actually put in some of the first speed humps in the city.
You went out, I don't know, yeah, there.
Yeah, okay, sorry. We put in some of the first speed humps in the city of Pittsburgh. So to me, it's about safety in our neighborhoods and our communities. So speeding is always an issue. I do know that the mayor's agenda he has a zero vision, which I commend him on. I think we have to keep our neighbors and our residents safe when they are walking to school, when they're walking to their business districts, when they want to go and see things across this city. It does come down to safety. The one thing I always get, and you actually said it in your question, speeding is just don't get meat with a speeding ticket. I remember that on city council. So I was at CDS, and the neighbors or the residents asked me for a meeting. And they said, our parents are really worried about the speeding at CDS. And I said, okay, we're going to have a speed cop up there. Well, then we had a meeting the following night. Everybody in that room got a speeding ticket and was mad at me. So speeding is a thing. We have to protect our residents. We have to ensure that there are no strips where the city of Pittsburgh where you can exceed the speed limit to 20 to 30 times. And that's the type of city that you have to build, you have to grow. And the stats that we are going to get from the red light cameras should actually help us build a city that slows people down, because we'll know where people are running more red lights than anywhere else. And I commend council for that, and I commend the mayor for his zero vision when it comes to safety and deaths on our roads. We have to do that, and we need to continue what the mayor did, but also take it a step further and see what the data comes back from council.
Oh, I forgot to say. So David Dunn here has your timer.
Oh,
And-
sorry, David. Did
That's
you
okay.
give me
No,
a
you were good.
Okay.
So if you see him, he'll have 30 seconds,
Got it.
and then he'll hold up the stop. Go ahead, Dad.
We ready?
Yeah.
Traffic calming is a value. And we can't just look at it from one prong. It's a prong that we have to continue to look at it for, and how we create equity in our communities. When I came in, for instance, we're in Squirrel Hill that had a whole lot of speed bumps. But you had no speed bumps in Glen Hazel, none in Hazelwood, none in Greenfield. There's no equity in that. And so people can't see or feel safe where they don't see equity. So working with Councilwoman Barbara Warwick and Councilwoman Erica Strasburger to be able to talk about how we create more safety in our community. One way we did it, you just heard me say, was expand some of the speed bumps. The other way that you heard us talking about, thanks to Commander Vanaski, is that we also started to be a little bit more reinforcement out here when it comes to speeding, because that's important. The more they see a police presence, trust me, the more they slow down. The red light enforcement is the third mechanism that Councilwoman Strasburg talked a lot about. That also helps us with community police relations. Because now, instead of having that constant interaction that can cause problems between the police and the community, the red light cameras will give us the ability to be able to send in and say, hey, we're watching you. And so sometimes I got a problem with Big Brother. At the end of the day, the things that we can use to make this city safe is what we're going to use, because I want to make this city the safest city in America.
Can we make those speed bumps, though, a little bit lower, because they're destroying my car?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can talk about that.
All right,
but,
okay.
Okay,
Okay, next one. So,
I ain't want that mama look.
you're okay. Okay, so let's turn to the budget. COVID funds have been spent. What are your budgeting priorities as the revenue shrinks, especially as downtown property owners appeal their assessments, so it's going to go even lower? And federal funding is going to be threatened.
You know, that's
So-
a great. Oh,
So
There's
what
more
services will you safeguard, and what's your threshold for raising taxes?
let me say this. When we came into office, we knew that our budget was going to be our moral compass. And we understood that the ARPA money was leaving, that the real estate values downtown was going down. And we were transparent with the community to let them know exactly what was going on. Because it's important that we be the protector of your tax dollars, and I can't do that if I'm not transparent. We went out and we made sure we did city in the streets so that we could hear directly from you exactly how you wanted to prioritize our tax dollars. We went around to every zone in the police department to find out what we can do to better handle public safety. We also went around to Department of Public Works to find out what they don't need, because at the end of the day, we knew we were going to have to invest more up front, because we were going to come into 2 lean years, and in these 2 lean years, we had to be sure that we were doing what was right by the taxpayer dollars. Thirdly, we created a task force that considered Controller Rachel Heiser, Councilwoman Erica Strasburg, and my office, so that we would be all on the same team about where we were from a budget standpoint. And we didn't have to raise taxes. We budgeted the money, we stretched that penny thin. See, being in this situation caused for us to be able to have to make hard choices. And we did that. And we finished this year with a $4 million surplus. Now, if you take it to the county, where my opponent has been the chief financial officer, the watchdog for county dollars, For 2 years, this budget has had structural deficits, and we haven't heard one word until County Exec Sarah Anamorado took office, looked at the budget, found out what was going on, and even in the midst of the conversation, there was silence coming out of the county controller. Even Rachel Heisler, though it was a fight, always mentioned the fact that at the end of the day, she was watching our dollars.
Okay, so let's start with what the city needs. Well, right now, if it snows, we need plows. You did not invest in plows. What you did was you went out and hired 100 new people. You took our parks tax that was supposed to go into recreation centers, hired more people. You went on a hiring spree when you know that the city could not afford it. You ask who blew the whistle on the county? I did. I said it this summer before the county executive even proposed her budget. So you want to be transparent. Let's be transparent about how we're going to build the future of this city, and it's not going to be a spending spree. The reason you have a $3 million surplus is you didn't fill positions in the budget. It gets $4 million then, fine. So what happened with that money? You took our public safety and you decreased our officers. You did not fill in our officers. You want to talk about transparency? That is not how you build a city of the future. You are not investing in the future. You are plugging holes to get by an election season. I did blow the whistle on the county. I will start investing in things that impact us each and every day. Our neighborhoods, our rec centers, our public works department, so we don't have to rent vehicles anymore. We were also cutting our pothole budget. Drive out there right now, there's potholes all over this city. But yet they're going to cut basic services so we can go out and hire more friends. That has to stop. The mayor's budget almost doubled, at least doubled, the prior administration's. That is not spending our money effectively. That's not building a future that impacts each and every one of us. And that's why I want to be the mayor of this city, to be transparent about where the budget's going, to not sleepwalk into another Act 47 where you have to lay off people, you have to close down swimming pools. That's where we're headed right now if we do not change.
Okay. And another very, very local thing. This past summer, the city had just one plumber. We had one plumber, pipe guy. And meant the water fountains in the parks weren't turned on during the heat wave. And they were, because our plumber, I guess, was working on the pools, also important. So what do you do to make sure that not just that job, but all of our essential jobs are staffed in a time when hiring becomes difficult?
That had never happened before. I was on city council for 11 years. We never had an issue turning on a water fountain. Kids and families who go to our rec centers in the summer deserve water. Water is a basic necessity, especially when you're coming into a city park. To not have the ability to turn water fountains on shows the incapability of this administration to manage a city of the future. It's one thing to have that happen for a week or two when the season first starts. But you know what? You call the plumbers union. You call PWSA. You get somebody in there that's going to turn those fountains on, because it's not right and it's not an investment in the people of Pittsburgh to not have water fountains on. It is inexcusable that a basic need and a basic thing that is in our parks was not able to work. That is not leadership. You figure out the problem. We have never seen that before in the city of Pittsburgh. That's a shame that this is what we're seeing right now. Excuses on spending money and hiring people. Over 100 people from COVID money were hired in this city. The parks tax. Maybe we could have turned water fountains on if we spent money with our parks tax. Those are the basic things that operate a city. That's basic government needs that we should be producing for each and every resident here, and we are not doing it.
Thank you. I want to be real transparent, because some things are rhetoric and not action. And I want to make sure that we understand some things. Highland Park, their water fountain was cut off before I even took office. So that's not true. The park in Highland Park didn't have a water fountain. So when we talk about being transparent, we got to talk about what we know, not what we think. And the reality is it was cut off. My first budget, go back and look at it. We invested a whole lot of money in DPW because when we came in, we had a 21% personnel issue that people wasn't going to work. We didn't have the trucks. We didn't have the equipment to get up the snow. So we had to do some thinking outside the box to ensure that DPW was in a position where they could do the work that was benefiting our people. We invested and we bought and rented 7 trucks to be able to get the snow up because it didn't exist. Department of Public Works have put in more work right now than they have put in the past. We have opened up more swimming pools and created more issues with our rec center because at the end of the day, we expanded the hours in Phillips Rec and Hammond's Rec so that people can have an opportunity to send their kids there and not worry about them being killed in the street. And that's why from 13 to 17, we've had no homicides in this city in 2024. The first thing that we ever did was invest in city services so that we can make sure that we were in position to move snow, to make sure potholes was covered up, because at the end of the day, you're what means the most to me. So our first move was to invest in core city services. That's the truth. And one thing about the budget, since I got a minute, go find out where his solutions was for the budget. And you know what you'll see? Zero.
All right. This question goes back farther than last summer because it's been a long time coming. Anthony Coghill is right. When it comes to city-county building, it's the victim of a deferred maintenance. When you look at because there's that old adage that everybody wants to build something, but nobody wants to maintain it. So what are you going to do to increase the maintenance, not just of our local infrastructure? You're working on, we've got bridges, we've got parks, we've got city-owned buildings like the city-county building, and community centers. And that's sort of the heart of our city right there.
You know, when I took office, 3 weeks into my administration, I woke up to the biggest nightmare that I could ever wake up to. I was on my way to work, and I got a text from a lady named Tracy Batten that said that the Fern Hollow Bridge had collapsed. I had no idea what she was talking about. I'm 54 years old, and I've never seen a bridge in this region collapse. So when I get downtown, I call out to my public safety officials to find out if I can come out there. And they said I couldn't because the gas line severed and gas was blowing east, west, north, and south. We ignored the inspections. When the Greenfield Bridge fell and we were on 60 Minutes, we never took notice of that and did anything that said, how do we resolve this issue so we wouldn't have a Fern Hollow Bridge? But here's what we did. One, we created our bridge asset management program. We got the Fern Hollow Bridge up quicker than any bridge in the Commonwealth ever before. We also made sure that if a bridge was in failing condition, if the bridge was in a condition that we knew were failing because that's what the reports told us, we were closing that bridge immediately. And I know the Charles Anderson Bridge, the Panther Hollow, I apologize for the inconvenience. But I will not wake up again to a bridge that has collapsed. We were fortunate. 2-hour school delay, so no kids was on there. People jog under that bridge every single day. We were fortunate that there was nobody under there. We inherited the deterioration and the disinvestment in the city county building, in our bridges, in our roads, in our infrastructure. And when we came in, we started putting the right investments in place to fix DPW, to fix our bridges, and to ensure that the safety of our residents are the most important thing. So I apologize the fact that those bridges are closed. But when I find out that a bridge is in failure, I am not waiting to wake up again. I will fix it immediately.
So you mentioned your investment in DPW. Why 2 weeks ago when it snowed did your office print out "surprised by the snow"? That is not prepared for what the city needs. You are renting vehicles. You are surprised by the snow. You want to talk about outgoing budgets and being transparent about bridges? You have $0 set aside for bridges in the future. $0. The state of Pennsylvania under Governor Shapiro and prior under Governor Wolf has built more bridges in the history of our state, and we have one. I was there that morning with you. You want to talk about the Greenfield Bridge? I was on council investing millions of dollars going for state money so that that bridge did get repaired. Same with the Duck Hollow Bridge. We can talk about infrastructure, but let's be transparent. There is zero money in the budget for bridges, zero in the future for neighborhood investments, zero for small business, zero for IT. That is not building a city of the future. That is sitting back and waiting for something to happen. That is not being transparent with the budget or with DPW. I mean, that's as simple as I can get with that answer, but I know you had another point to that question. I just heard that. What was the actual question?
Fixing up the city-county building, too.
Fixing up the city-county building. Again, city-county partnership. I've been on that elevator where it broke down, and that was no fun. But those are the types of buildings that we have to invest in. You want to also talk about the art money? When it comes to rec centers, Cowley Rec Center on the north side, supposed to have $5 million to rebuild it, move somewhere else. We are not investing in our rec, in our youth, and in our families. My first initiative was about growing our city, growing our young families, supporting them before and after school, having programs where moms or dads can drop their kids off at 7 to 9 in the morning because we know people work 2 jobs now, and the city of Pittsburgh should be reaching out using those rec centers effectively to help each and every family grow. And if we're going to grow this city, it starts with young people and young families.
Thank you. All right, and I think our last question, yeah, and then we'll have short closing statements of about a minute. But a portion of the school district's wage tax was diverted to the city during the city's last financial crisis. That diversion now amounts to about $20 million a year, and the school board keeps saying they want that money back. Well, I know that this was accomplished through an act of the legislature. You can't do this yourself. But would you lobby to have that money revert back to the schools? Why or why not?
So yeah, you're right, you have to go to the state. I actually think if we want to partner with the schools, we would go to the state and ask the state for a comprehensive plan because the city cannot lose that $20+ million that we're already in deficit in the next couple of years anyways. So if you want to have a long-term partnership with the schools, it starts right now. We haven't had that in a while, coordinating efforts, working with our schools, having our schools give us access to their buildings on weekends so that our kids have places to go. There's no reason on a Saturday that our aquatics division cannot be teaching a swim class at Alderdice. There are pools and facilities that this is the time to work with the school board, go to the state, look for a long-term solution to their problems and our problems, but now we have an ironclad commitment from the schools that they will partner with the city in building a future for all of us. So I am open to the idea of going up there and talking to the legislature. I think we have to. We are all going to need money in the future, but that's the type of commitment that I would have, is going up there with a partnership with the schools that the city residents benefit as well as the school.
One is that you got to go back up to the state, and I've been at the state because the state feels that they were already reimbursed. So many at the state, this deal happened before I became a state representative, but it's one that I began to discuss as a state representative to see how we could help our school system. So we would have to have a conversation, one, to talk about where the money was reimbursed, what the state feels about that, and how we can better coordinate efforts between the state and the school district. That's a conversation that's been going on. It's a conversation I will continue until we can discover whether the state believes that the money was reimbursed or not. That's number one. And so will we be doing that? We're already doing that. We've had these conversations before. We will continue to have these conversations, but that's where the breakdown is at. Now let me bring up some things that I want to clarify. We've invested in our rec centers. That's why we got Ammons open late, and that's why we got Phillips open late. That's why we're running night basketball, to be able to keep our children off the streets. We've invested on our families. We created something called the Youth Civic Leadership Council, which gives high school kids an opportunity to be with the mayor, get 3 colleges from CCAC, get a paid stipend from workforce, Rob Cherry and the workforce, because at the end of the day, It's also why we had interns in my office that could be with me to help talk about the future of this city. It's also why we created a partnership with the school district so that I can go out into the schools and discuss value with our children. See, when we're not sure about what we're talking about, we just can't speak rhetoric. We got to speak truth. And in speaking truth, the civic leadership program, our youth commission, the ability to go in there and create atmospheres where we can talk to our children, the after-school programs that we open up, the Westinghouse swimming pool that we're opening up to make sure that we can get more paramedics that are young, the schools that the programs we are opening up to ensure one thing, that we can have more paramedics coming out of high school. That's an investment in children, that's an investment in family, and that's an investment in you.
All right, and that is the end of our debate. Before you guys give your closing statements, I just want to say that I've known you both for many years, right? And I've known you both to be friends, right? I mean, you should have seen these guys in prior years. They were always friendly, and they were. It was like very much the Mr. Rogers neighborhood thing, and as Democrats, which you both are, I hope that when this is over, that you can come back together and work together, and not let any hard feelings linger. So. So with that, Ed, you want to do your closing statement first, and then you got a minute. Corey, you do, and we might be. Oh wow, we're right at the end of time, so good go on us. So yeah, go ahead. You've got a minute, and then Corey's got a minute.
First, I want to thank you for having me this afternoon. I appreciate it. The reason why I appreciate it because it gave me the opportunity to tell you exactly what is going on with your taxpayer dollar and what we're doing to improve the overall growth of this city. And everything I shared with you today is things that you could go check for yourself, including the Department of Public Works, our police department, our infrastructure, our housing program, the whole nine. And I will never hate Corey because that's not in me to just hate somebody because we're running against each other. But there is a certain amount that I'm not going to tolerate, like the misinformation about our stands and our budget and our priorities and the things that we've done in the past. I'm not going to do that to him, and I'm going to ask him not to do that to me. Because the reality is everything that I talked about, we're not nowhere near Act 47. We finished with a $4 million budget. We finished with the bond rating agencies taking us from AA- to AA of stability. We continue to make sure we created a financial task so that you know where your taxpayer dollars is going. Let me tell you something. If that's not growth, then I don't know what is, because at the end of the day, we didn't have to raise taxes. And at the end of the day, okay.
No, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. And yeah, I think Ed and I are always friends. This is a debate about the vision of the city. And he mentioned to be transparent. I ask you to go look at the budget and see that there are $0 in those categories that I mentioned in the next 4 years. You want to talk about investing in paramedics? We have ambulances that are breaking down to and from calls. The mayor mentioned about a youth council. Guess who started that youth council and city council? I did. I know how to involve the city of Pittsburgh. I know how to involve our youth. I'm looking right now and seeing lack of transparency when it comes to public safety, when it comes to hiring a chief of police that's allowed to go out and referee basketball and put our lives at danger. We didn't talk about those issues today, but if you want to talk about growth in a city of the future, it starts with me. It starts with somebody that brings progressive values to this city, to this mayor's office, somebody that has a track record of getting difficult things done for the residents of the city of Pittsburgh. And in order to grow this city, it has to talk about growth. Stop. I stopped, I listened.
Thank you guys both. Thank you. Corey? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connor, and thank you, Mayor Gainey. And thank you for everyone for coming. We hope this will be an interesting campaign and an informative campaign.